But look, I wouldn't want to be any place else in the world than America today, and I'd never count against us. But I think what we really need to do is sit down at the table, look at our problems, and have elected officials come to the conclusion, let's find solutions instead of things that differentiate. But it's also a responsibility to every single American. It's not just the elected officials to have to solve this problem, because we're a microcosm of society. We reflect exactly what the country looks like.
Yeah, until the guys get in there and they're there so long that they start to change and forget. What is the one thing that you've learned since you've been out that you wish that if you could go back and change something, you would do differently?
Well, I look like this. It's a continuing education. I wish members had a little more time, instead of having to run constantly, to pause a day and spend without the cameras around and think about how to solve. And what I try to do even as speaker is to pick those macro problems, the problems that both parties agree you cannot solve them by one party, right? I'd say our debt, I'd say China, and there's something I did with China, okay? I created the Select Committee on China, which is the most bipartisan committee we've had in Congress during the most probably partisan times, that actually worked together and continues to work together. So it can work, but you put the cause together. So when I created this committee, I sat down with the Democratic leader, Hakeem Jeffries, and I literally showed him who I was going to appoint before I showed my own conference. And I said, when we constitute this committee, I want you to constitute it with me. And when we sat there, and we did the same thing with the Intel committee, because we had to fix it. And I said, listen, I'm not going to do anything in this committee to try to defeat you in your election. You could come to Hakeem or you could come to me. The only thing we're going to look at is what's best for America. Take the politics out of it. And to the credit to the members who've served, they continue to do that. And I think that's very important. And we need to grow. There's not a problem with having differences of opinion. There's not a problem with arguing the different points. You want the best idea to win at the end of the day. But to solve the debt, you can't have one party look at it and who's ever in the minority is going to criticize it. We had the same problem when the Soviet Union collapsed in the 1990s. No member was going to raise their hand and said, close the military base in my district for the good of the country. And we created something called BRAC, the Base Realignment and Closure. We should do that for the Debt Committee, because what we do at the end of the day, when that committee comes to a conclusion and has a vote and it gets there, and the equal number of who appoints to it, all it's guaranteed is a vote in the House and the Senate with no amendments.
Good.
And you know what happened at the end of the day? There'd be a bipartisan vote for it.
I like it.
And I think structure dictates behavior. So if we change the structure in some of these problems, the behavior would be different.
I like it. Kevin McCarthy, appreciate the perspective. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.